Hey, what's up everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. Okay, I hope you guys can hear me very well. But if not, like I said in the previous videos, I'll be getting in this car and it's cold. So I try to sit in here for about 15 minutes and just keep the heater on. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about, because I know the NFL season is going on. If you notice, I don't cover the NFL pretty much at all. I may have covered maybe one or two topics on the NFL in total since I started this channel. And to be honest with you, that's misleading because I do like football. I grew up not really a sports guy. I got into basketball at like 9 years of age with the Lakers. But I started liking football a little bit around that same time, around 96. I started following the Packers. But I didn't follow them closely. It wasn't a passion of mine. It was just, okay, we're watching the Super Bowl. Oh, crap, they won, so I like this team now. It was that kind of thing. My grandfather was rooting for the Packers. I was watching the game with him, so now I like the Packers, and it was just that kind of thing. When you're 11 years old, you just jump on the bandwagon and call it a day. So that's what I did with football. And then later on, I started liking the 49ers because a good friend of mine was a 49er fan, so he kind of got me paying attention to the 49ers. In high school, I had a couple friends who were Jets fans, so I paid attention to the Jets for one season, considered myself somewhat of a supporter of that team for just this quick moment. So, you know, my football fandom, I mean, if you ask me, am I a real football fan? The answer is no. But I do have a team, and that team is basically the Packers, and it has been. I've never wavered on how much I like the Packers. It was just I never really considered me solely a Packer fan. I liked other teams, stuff like that, whatever. And when it comes to fantasy sports, I love fantasy football and still play it to this very second. I play fantasy football. In fact, I had maxed out my teams on both NFL.com and ESPN. So I had like over 30 fantasy teams this season. So that's just a part of my personality at this point. And I don't need to watch any football at all to be a good fantasy player. I literally don't need to. And won like, what? Maybe 7 championships out of 30. I think I won 7 this year, about 7. So, you know, that's my thing. And I think the point of what I'm trying to get to is my enthusiasm for the NFL and football is low. It's a sport that once I started liking it, I began to like it more and more and more every year. But somewhere in the last 3 years, I just stopped caring. It was a combination of the entire scandal with CTE. Once I started to get knowledgeable about CTE, start to learn about CTE, I stopped seeing it as a sport that I should want to play at all, and that I should want my kids and the younger people in my life to play. If you love football, I'm not going to tell you to run away from your passion. If my kid grows up and wants to play football, I will allow him to do so. With this risk involved, because I believe that much in finding your passion and following it. Even if the risks are too much for others. If they're not too much for you, then you're not hurting anyone else that doesn't want to be hurt. Obviously, in this case, it's a special situation. Then it should be a go. But I don't think that football is a safe sport. It's just my opinion, and I don't think that's much of an opinion. I think it's a fact. Seeing that players have lost their lives to CTE in non-football situations simply because their brains all messed up, it makes me not really think of football as something that's really a giver of good energy. Even though I enjoy it, it feels like it's like a step up from barbaric sports, like trying to kill each other, basically. At some point in time, I think from a spiritual standpoint, I look at football and say, that kind of bumps my spirit in a way that makes me feel like maybe that's not okay, even though we consider it a norm. Maybe what we're doing probably ain't spiritually ethical in that regard, but there's a million sports that go that way as well, not just football. So that's just one aspect that I've wrestled with as I've grown into who I've become. And another aspect of football that I don't really love, doesn't have anything to do with the sport, the X's and O's of the art form, but just the league. their stances on political stuff. I don't think anybody would be excited to hear me say that I'm not a fan of some of the stances that they've taken over time. That whole situation with the whole kneeling situation, Colin Kaepernick, that kind of took my enthusiasm away from me. It's like they sucked the life out of me as a football sometimer. You know what I mean? If the NBA did this, I do not know it would be the same. If the NBA had the stances that the NFL has taken socially, I don't know that I would feel as good about the NBA or as bad about the NBA as I do about the NFL. I see that the NFL is trying to slowly but surely involve themselves in things that will kind of change their image and kind of give off the vibe that they're considering what they can do to improve upon their stances on social issues. So I do see the shift. But for me, once they took the stance as a league that they were going to ignore the issues involving why the kneeling was taking place, and sided with those who were antagonists in that situation because they thought that that was okay at the time and they thought that that was the right way to go. Now that we're here in this space where people who had those opinions are now being vilified for those same opinions, you know, and some of the other things that are happening involving some of our current issues in 2021 right now, it just reminds me of how quickly the tide can turn on a majority that believes in, you know, silencing others and not bringing forth concern for the outcry of a disenfranchised group, and taking the side of those who would support them on the other side of those issues. It just made me understand that we don't have any friends over there. That's not something that I take a whole lot of pride in saying publicly. That's not something I feel very confident is all the way true. But the way they presented themselves to me personally made me aware that they don't care if I live or die, so long as the silent majority, who's not so silent right now, who make up the majority of their fan base, is at peace with the stances that they take. A lot of people, particularly people who are not African American, a lot of them really believe that the conversation involving this kneeling and all of that is about something political. But as an African American person, as somebody who stands before you wearing a black skin forevermore, I can assure you that politics are not the conversation centerpiece there. That's not what this is about. This is about life or death for people that look like me, and whether or not we're going to have support from people that don't. And those people in the NFL, their supporters, they took the stance of those who don't support us. They took the stance of those who want to see us silenced before seeing us saved. Seeing us quiet rather than seeing us in safety. That hurt me on a cellular level as a human. Not as a black man, because the black is the skin, but behind my eyes there's a soul here with hopes and dreams and feelings and love and desires to see people okay and desires to see situations, you know, solved, conflicts solved. Yeah, that person inside of me that's sensitive to how I'm perceived, that person felt slighted by the NFL. Just like I felt slighted by my country. Just like I felt slighted by my president. Just like I felt slighted by his supporters. Some of which I know personally. Some people I know who really support him, who claim to love me, don't love me like I love them, because I would never support something that they were so vehemently against as it pertains to their life or death. And the NFL took that stance against myself. That's how I perceived it. They took that stance against myself. They took that stance against the people who are like me, and they took that stance against the people who agree with me who are not like me. And there are many of them as well. So that's what it is, man. The NFL essentially, you know, I don't want to say something that's irresponsible, so I'll just tell you the vibes that I get from them rather than what they are actually. The vibe that I got from the NFL is that they're run by the Klan. As an African-American person, that's exactly the vibe I got. That this is a Klan-run organization that probably funds things that keep people that look like me in situations that are not savory. Some of the conflicts that we have in our communities can be solved by some of these entities that exist, such as the NFL, and they choose not to. They simply choose not to because they represent the very thing that keeps us down. And so I have no enthusiasm to support the NFL. While these NFL playoffs are going off and everybody was talking about, oh, you know, we boycott the NFL 2 years ago. I don't want to see the NFL anymore. Blah, blah, blah. You know, and now 2 years later, they're all watching NFL and forgot all about boycotting, forgot all about all that. My position on the NFL was the complete opposite. I'm like, well, no, I'm not boycotting them. I'm going to separate the two. But as time passed and I continued to feel what I was feeling coming off of that symbol, that NFL badge that they have, that vibe that I got, that this is about country more so than about the betterment of human life, that they are simply on the wrong side of history, that they are fighting for the South more or less in today's modern times. And when I got that understanding, my enthusiasm for appreciating what it is that the NFL brought to the table on any level just left. It left me. It wasn't like I was consciously boycotting anything. It was more so like, I don't care about this anymore. I don't love the sport to begin with. I'm a basketball guy. But now I know that the people who are putting this sport in front of me don't care anything for me as it pertains to just on a decency level. It's a human being level. They would rather me watch in horror as my brothers and sisters die instead of allowing me to kneel in solidarity, etc., etc. You know the story. You've heard it. And yes, there are going to be a lot of people who don't agree with that, who come from a different perspective, come from a position that's not like mine, and they're going to have opposite ideas about this whole situation. I'm not talking to you right now. No disrespect to who you are as a person, but this conversation really isn't for you, because you'd have to be in my shoes and feel what I feel to even attempt to understand the context from which I'm speaking. This is not for you. But for those of us who understand where I'm coming from, I just feel like the NFL don't give a damn about me. And I don't get that feeling from the NBA, particularly from the Lakers, the team that I follow, because of the stance that our ownership takes, the stance that our team takes on social issues. I feel like I'm making the right decision in being a fan. So I just wanted to get on here and talk to you guys about why I don't really mess with the NFL, why I just have a really, really natural and organic dismissal of their league. It's because of this. And I get it. They have made a lot of African-American families very, very wealthy by providing a platform for them to live out their dreams and play the game that they are passionate about. So it's not all bad. But as I've said in other situations, I don't know if I've ever said this on camera, but it's like, okay, if I'm taking $1 million check, you're probably taking 2 in response to that. You're going to make a profit on me. I'm an investment, and you're going to make it a profit on that. With that profit that you make, what are you funding? And my gut tells me that with the stances that they're taking, they're probably funding something that I wouldn't want them to fund with the money that I'm earning for them. For the money that I'm paying as a consumer, and as well as the money that they're earning off of the backs of these athletes. So yeah, you made those athletes rich, catering to their dreams and their selfishness and their desire to be fulfilled personally. But you do nothing for the outcry from their communities. People who don't have athletic bodies and athletic talent, who can't find themselves in a position to give something meaningful to the masses so that you can make millions of dollars off of it. I don't have those things to give to the world. And so I'm dismissive. I'm disposable is the word to the NFL and to people who think that way, simply because I'm not catering to the overwhelming wealth of things. I don't think that's right. From my core, I don't believe that that's right. I find value in people who have nothing. I find gems that come from people who don't have a whole lot. I see the value in leaving things alone and grabbing the energy off of people who have good things to share and good energy to share with you. I don't judge people off the color of their skin. So for those who judge me off the color of my skin, or will blanket me into a group of people that you think are dirty or that you think should be set aside because they would disrupt things, without actually listening to the fact that I am not a disruptor of anything at all, least of all because of my skin. But that you won't even consider that you'll look at me and dismiss me and say that my murder is justified, and that anyone who speaks in an outcry for the justice for my murder should be condemned. That is a brand that I want nothing to do with. I don't speak for nobody else. I know a lot of people meant what they said when they weren't going to pay attention to the NFL, and they still have a passion for their teams. They still have a passion for the players. Maybe they have people on the team that they love, people they even know who play in the NFL. I don't want to shun any of those individuals. I want you to live your dream, athlete. I honor athletes. I can't do what y'all do. I look at y'all as special out here. If there were a different brand that could garner enough attention to give you a platform to do what it is that you do, I would encourage you to go play for them and instead of the NFL. That's my stance. There's nothing wrong with the sport of football as it pertains to this particular part of the conversation. It's just the brand of the NFL that has shown me that they don't mess with me, so I don't mess with them. My name is Brandon Deloney Fulmer, BDF44. Thank you guys for watching my channel. I do have good energy for those who don't think like me. If we can get along, we can get along. We can agree to not agree. But one thing we will never get along about is you telling me that I'm wrong for protesting something that happened to someone else. This is not a self-indulgence type of situation. This is unselfishness on display if I'm doing that. And you're telling me I'm wrong for that? What are you teaching my children with your platform if you're telling me I'm wrong for standing up for what's right? I don't want to have nothing to do with you. I'm out.